Hi everyone, I'm Fariza.
And I'm Hannah.
So today, we will be presenting about the amphibians. In this video, we will go through the characteristics, evolution, and diversity.
Alright, before we're going through the characteristics of amphibians, why not we discover its meaning first? So, what is amphibians? The amphibians comes from a Greek word. It is a combination of the word amphi, which means dual, and bio, which means life. And the overall meaning of it is living in both on land and in water. From the National Geographic, it says that amphibians are small vertebrates that need water or a moist environment to survive. Most members of this group lead a lifestyle that includes a larval stage that lives in the water, and as an adult stage, they live on land. There are few species that can represent amphibians, such as frogs, salamander, and newts. Now that we have known enough about the background of amphibians, so let's go through the characteristics of amphibians. The first general characteristic of amphibians is its limbs. Amphibians are tetrapods, which means a four-footed animal. The skeleton, particularly the pelvic and pectoral girdle, is well developed to promote locomotion. Next, amphibians have smooth and non-scaly skin. The skin, which is kept moist by the mucous gland, plays an active role in the water balance and respiration, and it can help in temperature regulation when on land through evaporative cooling. Most of the amphibians will stay close to water, or else they will risk themselves into drying out. Next, we will discuss another general characteristic of amphibians, which is the lungs. If lungs are present in the amphibians, they are relatively small, and respiration is supplemented by exchange of gases across the porous skin that called cutaneous respiration. The next characteristic is double-loop circulatory pathway. As we all know, amphibians has three-chambered heart with a single ventricle and two atria, which will pump the blood to both the lungs and the body. In amphibians and most reptiles, limited mixing of oxygen-rich and oxygen-poor blood takes place in the single ventricle of their three-chambered heart. The next characteristic of amphibians is the sense organs. Amphibian brains are larger than the fish, and the cerebral cortex is more developed. Thus, these animals have a specialized tongue for catching prey, eyelids for keeping their eyes moist, and a sound-producing larynx. Next, the characteristic of amphibians is ectothermy. Amphibians are ectotherms, which means they are cold-blooded animals whose regulation of body temperature depends on the external sources, such as sunlight or a heated rock surface. During winters in the temperate zone, they become inactive and enter torpor. The European common frog can survive in the temperature dropping to as low as -6 degrees Celsius. Alright, so now let us watch a video on how the amphibians survive in the low temperature.
An incredible transformation begins. The water in the frog's blood starts to freeze. The wood frog enters a state of suspended animation. Its internal organs and metabolic activity grind to a near halt. The lungs stop working, and the heart eventually stops beating. The wood frog can survive for months with an incredible 2/3 of their body completely frozen, to the point where they are essentially frogsicles. After a grueling 8 months, spring arrives. The temperature's warm and the ice starts to melt. Hidden within his frozen tomb, the wood frog also begins to thaw. Water slowly flows back into his cells. They rehydrate and return to their original shape. Within 30 minutes, the heart restarts and the blood begins to flow. The wood frog comes back to life. After 2 days, the frog heads out to look for some food, a mate, and a much-awaited pea.
And the last characteristic of amphibians is the aquatic reproduction. Their name, amphibians, is appropriate because many return to water for the purpose of reproduction. They deposit their eggs and sperm into the water where external fertilization takes place. Generally, the eggs are protected only by a jelly coat, not by a shell. When the young hatch, they are tadpoles that feed and grow in the water. After amphibians undergo a metamorphosis, which is the process of transformation from an immature form to an adult in 2 or more distinct stages, they emerge from the water as adults that breathe air. Some amphibians, however, have evolved mechanisms that allow them to bypass this aquatic larval stage and reproduce on land. And yeah, that's all for the characteristic of amphibians. For the next parts, my friend Fariza will be talking about the evolution and diversity among living amphibians.
Thank you, Hannah. So now I will talk about the evolution of amphibians. Amphibians evolved from loop-finned fishes with lungs by way of transitional forms. There are 2 hypotheses that explain the occurrence of the evolution. First, loop-finned fishes use their loop fins to move from pond to pond. And secondly, they promoted further adaptations due to the supply of food and the absence of predators on land. This is Tiktaalik. Tiktaalik is an extinct loop-finned fish with many features similar to four-legged animals. It represents an intermediate between loop-finned fishes and theropods, and it also provides unique insights into how the legs of theropods arose. Now, let's watch a video of Tiktaalik's first time landed on land. Let's go!
The arrival of the first vertebrate animals on land.
Tiktaalik's heavy-duty fin still helped it to swim, but when it hit the shallows, the bones and joints push itself up and pan around. Hey, wait a minute! How does a fish like Tiktaalik able to live on land? Is it possible? Yes, of course it's possible. Tiktaalik's big and strong fins supported its body weight. It also has nostrils and a primitive lung for them to breathe air. Now, let's look into the figure on our meta textbook, page 550. The shoulder, humerus, radius, and ulna of loop-finned fishes are small. In amphibians, the shoulder structure is bigger, which provides stronger support. It also has larger size of humerus, radius, and ulna, and gruesome fingers. Let's take a look at the pelvis of a loop-finned fish. It is horizontally long, which inhibits further movement. The pelvis in amphibians is vertically upward, which is more flexible and results in a better movement. It also has longer femur, tibia, and fibula that are connected to the developed fingers, which enables amphibians to walk on land. Great! Now we are done with the evolution part. Let's move on to the diversity of living amphibians. When it comes to amphibians, most of us will think of frogs. But actually, the first group is salamander and newts, followed by frogs and toads, and lastly, we have caecilians. Salamander and newts have elongated bodies, long tails, and 2 pairs of limbs. Most limbs are set at right angles and resemble earliest fossil amphibians.
They have a wide range of sizes too. Salamanders can be as small as 1.1 inches including the tail, 2.7 centimeters, or they can be nearly 6 feet long, 1.8 meters, and weigh more than 140 pounds, 65 kilos.
It also has moist and smooth skin. They move like a fish with side-to-side sinusoidal movements. And they are carnivores.
Like most amphibians, there's no specific list of prey that the alpine newt eats. Small crustaceans, tadpoles, and amphibian eggs are all common fare, but they'll go after any animal that can fit in their mouth. Or in this little guy's case, even animals that won't. It takes a big female to finish the job, but even she needs 10 minutes to finally swallow the worm, and there wasn't even any tequila involved. 2. When the sexes look different in the same species, it's called sexual dimorphism. But what's the purpose? Females are larger because they have to produce so many eggs, and they're not colorful because they don't have to display for the males. So how does the male win the love of a female? Well, he starts by lighting scented candles. Oh wait, he starts by sniffing her snout to make sure she's the right species of newt. He then positions himself in front of her to do a dance, which fans his pheromones her way in attempts of making her interested. The male eventually drops a spermatophore into the leaves, hoping that the female is interested enough to pick it up with her cloaca. If she does, her eggs will be internally fertilized by the spermatophore, and she'll then attach between 70 and 200 eggs to plants on the bottom of the pond. They hatch in 2 to 4 weeks. The larval stage lasts up to 4 months before larvae lose their gills and transform into newts. Alpine newts aren't exactly known for their commitment. After this male popped up for a gulp of air, he forgot about the female that he was courting and walked off. Now that's no way to treat a beautiful young lady.
Moving on to frogs and toads. They are common in subtropical to temperate to desert climates and range in length from less than 1 cm to 30 cm. They also have tympanum, which is their ear cavity. They lack tails as adult and has fused head and trunk. They have long hind limbs specialized for jumping. And all species are carnivores.
They'll eat spiders, scorpions, rodents, snakes, fish, and just about anything else that passes in front of them.
Glands in their skin able to secrete poison for protection from animals and microbial infections.
It's actually in the parotoid gland. You see that large bump right behind the eye there? That is where all the poison is stored. I gotta keep my mouth closed, so I'm not gonna talk during this part. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh, look at that. I guess it does shoot out. It get on your camera lens?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Tree frogs have adhesive toe pads to climb trees, while others have spade foots that act as shovels. Caecilians are legless amphibians with slightless head and smooth skin. These worm-shaped amphibians range in length from about 10 centimeters to more than 1 meters. Most burrow in moist soil and feeding on worms. So, that is all for the amphibians. Thank you for watching, everyone!